Hello, this is Mr. Fail55, otherwise known as Z Muscle. I'm going to start doing Fimfiction readings, so I'm going to start with a story called The Lost Wonderbolts, written by Fireflash. I'll link the story in the description below. So without further ado, The Lost Wonderbolts. Rainbow Dash and I have been best friends since we were only Philly and Colt. We played together all the time, had adventures, everything that best friends do. One fateful day, everything changed. When I passed the entrance exam for the Wonderbolts, unfortunately, Rainbow didn't pass. I was so sorry that my best friend couldn't join with me, and I made it clear to her that being in the Wonderbolts without her was nowhere near as much fun as not being in the Wonderbolts and hanging out with her. Time passed, and I realized that we were still best friends and that nothing, not even one of us achieving our life's dream and the other being left out, could break that friendship. I had an idea. I would train her and beg the Wonderbolts captain Spitfire to give her a second attempt at the entrance exam. After almost a year of training, I was convinced that my best friend in Equestria, Rainbow Dash, would easily make the cut. About a week before the exam, Spitfire and Soren disappeared. They were two of the three judges for the exam entrance, and every pony wondered what had happened. Due to the fact that we were already short on performers for the next show, on the same date as the exam, no more flyers could be spared to judge the exam, and it had to be postponed. At this point I should have become suspicious, as I was forced to stop helping Rainbow Dash prepare in order to look for Spitfire and Soren with the rest of the Wonderbolts, hopefully in order to find them before the date of the exam. One day I was looking for Spitfire and Soren when I was attacked from behind. I was bucked in the head and I fell to the ground unconscious. When I woke up, I was blindfolded, gagged, and had my wings bound to my side. I removed the blindfold and immediately realized it was extremely dark. I looked around, but I could not tell where I was. I assumed I was in a cave, as the floors were rocky and rough. It took almost 10 minutes for me to remove the rope binding my wings. I had to admit, whoever threw me in here knew how to tie knots. I traced the cave wall with my hoof. It took under a minute for me to find what I was looking for. I thought so. I said aloud, "Magic." There was an exit. It had been sealed with magic. I may be a Pegasus, but years of hanging with Twilight Sparkle had taught me that you don't need to be a Pegasus to detect traces of magic. I tried to escape with a sonic flame boom, but it was no use. There was not enough space to accelerate. I was trapped. How silly of me. I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Fireflash. Haven't heard of me? I'm not as well known as Soren, Spitfire, or even Thunderstrike, although you may not have heard of him either. Well, I suppose the first thing I should try to do is find out who wanted me here and why, I thought. I know that Spitfire and Soren disappeared because some pony wanted me gone, either so I would be unable to train Rainbow and postpone the exam, or just because I was the original target. And I know that one of the ponies that captured me and threw me in this cave had to be a unicorn because the exit had been sealed with magic. I'll figure out who and why exactly later, because I need to get out of here somehow. I could dig my way out, but that could take days. I can't stay in here and wait, because I don't know when somebody will take notice that I'm missing. They probably just assume that I'm looking for Spitfire and Soren, two of my teammates. I guess I'll look around this cave a bit. After looking around for a few minutes, I found a dark tunnel in the back of the cave. After about 5 more minutes of looking around, I decided that it was the only opening in the cave. Since it won't do me any good to try and dig out, call for help, or just wait, I guess I'll explore that dark, creepy tunnel in the back of the cave for now. Maybe there's another exit somewhere in this place. After 5, maybe 10 minutes of walking down that dark tunnel, I started to hear voices. I dashed ahead and came into another cave, and ran into some pony, sending us both tumbling to the ground. I heard a voice say, "Spitfire, you alright?" Instead of calling out, I waited for a reply. After a few moments I heard, "I'm fine, Soren. Some pony else is in here, though." "Hello? Who's there?" I was ecstatic to recognize the voice of my two good friends. "Spitfire, Soren, it's me, Fireflash," I cried. They called out in unison. "Fireflash? What are you doing here?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Some pony or some ponies attacked me, captured me, and threw me in here." "How did they catch you?" asked Spitfire. "You're faster than both of us combined." "Well, only in a straight line," countered Soren, cutting me off. "You can't turn to save your life at that sort of speed. Do you remember when Rainbow Dash saved me and Spitfire with their sonic rain boom at the Best Young Flyers competition? I know, guys.
We have some great memories together, but now we need to focus on getting out of here, I interrupted. In answer to your question, Spitfire, I was attacked from behind. I had no way of knowing, at least now I know that you two are involved in my disappearance. Of course we're not involved, Soren retorted. Why would you ever assume that we were involved? You two disappeared first, and no pony could be counted out, I replied. Then Spitfire cut in. Well, every pony is looking for Soren and I, but we have no idea if any pony knows that you're missing, Fireflash. Supposedly, you're still looking for us. There might be a pony guarding the cave, and you must have gotten too close, so we captured you and threw you in here. That makes some sense, I said. But then why would they have captured you? It's not necessarily us, Soren reasoned. Some pony may have picked us at random to postpone the exam, and then decided to capture you as well when they realized that you could still train Rainbow. So our suspects are basically any pony with a grudge against you two, me, Rainbow Dash, the Wonderbolts, or any combination of the above, I concluded. Any pony we know that fits those categories? Spitfire asked sarcastically. About every pony in Equestria, Soren grumbled. I groaned and rolled my eyes. Well, that cleared up everything. Now how are we going to get out of here? Spitfire, Soren, any ideas? Well, I rolled my eyes again. This is great. Just great. At last we found each other, and I guess kind of figured out who put us here. But we're still stuck in this stupid cave. Whoa there, Fireflash. Slow down. Cool off. You're breathing pretty hard, said Spitfire. I took a few deep breaths and said, Alright, so our first course of action is to find a way out of here. There's a tunnel in front of this cave that leads to another cave, and the exit's in that room, but it's been sealed with magic. You two, explore the rest of the cave while I try to think of something. I spent the next 10 minutes or so pacing, and came up with a few insane ideas that were feasibly impossible and not worth mentioning. So when Soren and Spitfire returned, I was ready for some good news. Well, what's the report? I hope you two have something positive to tell me. In the back of the cave there's a little hole in the roof, Soren reported. I think I could fit through and look for help. No, that would never work, argued Spitfire. You can't fit through that, and you would get lost when you return to look for us. We can dig our way out through that hole. It's a good idea, but our wings would get too tired, I explained. I could use the new move that I've been working on to tunnel out through the hole. Both of them stared at me before Spitfire narrowed her eyes questioningly. What new move? You didn't say anything about a new move. Yeah, agreed Soren, also narrowing his eyes. You said that we should never keep secrets from each other. Hold on a moment, you two. This was going to be a surprise, not a secret, I corrected. I was planning on performing at next week's event, only the event has definitely been cancelled by now with 3 Wonderbolts missing. You're probably right. Well, what's your new move called? And how will it help us get out of here? It's called the Spinferno, and it's extremely difficult, so I haven't exactly had time to practice, I said nervously, my voice trailing off. That's alright, said Spitfire. It's worth a shot. Yeah, urged Soren. Give it a go. I looked into their eager faces and waited several seconds before replying. Alright, just give me a practice attempt first. A Spinferno is dangerous, and I want to be sure I have enough space to do it. As Soren and Spitfire moved back, I stood on my back hooves and stretched my wings. Ah, how wonderful it felt to be using them again. I started to dash around in a circle, flapping my wings to accelerate more rapidly. As I ran faster and faster, a red glow began to appear beneath my hooves, and Spitfire and Soren gasped in amazement. I began the second part of the trick, and I started to close the circle. A glowing orange ring appeared inside of the red ring as I tightened my circle. As I lifted off, a third, yellow glowing ring appeared inside of the orange ring. As I continued to gain speed, the glow began to waver and flicker. An incredible wind had started to blow around the cave, and flames began to rise from the ground. As I flew faster, reaching unbelievable speeds in an impossibly tight circle, I gradually became surrounded by a flaming tornado known only as a Spinferno, and I was the only pony to ever perform one, though Soren and Spitfire were the only two to ever witness one. The heat and wind were intense, but I can stand it thanks to a long week of practicing. As I began to slow down, the Spinferno slowed its rotation, and the flames began to dissipate. As I touched down on the floor of the cave, the glowing rings on the ground slowly began to fade away. As I trotted over to Spitfire and Soren, they stared at me in awe. Wow, Fireflash, I didn't know you had that sort of ability. I mean, I knew you were great, but this is incredible, Spitfire complimented. For the longest time I didn't either, I replied. I only did this for the first time last week. How would that help us out, though, wondered Soren. The tip that could drill us out is at the bottom, not the top, so even if you could modify it to help us escape, you would drill down, not up. I thought of that exact same problem, I said. That's why I thought that I could run on the ceiling using my wings to flap upside down, and then I could run on the ceiling and right myself to prepare to modify it when I take off, so that I would drill upward with my inverted Spinferno. It just might work, but it would be so many times more dangerous than the original. It can't hurt to try, Spitfire said nervously. Actually, it could hurt a lot. Just go for it, Fireflash. Me and Spitfire believe in you. Alright. But let me rest first. This thing takes nearly 30 wing power. Whoa, that's hard enough in a straight line, but in a tight circle, Spitfire said, still awestruck. Actually, flying in a tight circle increases the wing power calculation significantly. Really? Soren, how did you know that? Asked Spitfire. Remember, Fireflash and I went to Ponyville, and Rainbow Dash led the way for the Pegasus ponies of Ponyville to become the next ones of having the honor of supplying the water for the weather ponies in Cloudsdale. Right, now I remember, said Spitfire. I wanted to go with you two so badly, but I had broken my wing a couple days before. Back to the task at hand, I interrupted. I need to rest my hooves and wings for the next 10 minutes or so before I can run or fly again, and just under an hour before I can even think of trying another Spinferno. That trick really takes the energy out of me. It doesn't help that I'm hungry either. You two start digging a hole in the roof for me to drill into, and I'm gonna rest up. Will do, Fireflash. You rest up so you can drill us out of here. Wake me up in an hour or so. I don't know when, but when I woke up, Soren and Spitfire were snoozing side by side. Tired from flying and digging. I'll let them sleep, and I'll try to drill out once they're awake. In another 20 minutes, they had gotten up and were ready for me to attempt the inverted drill Spinferno. Stand back, I warned him. I don't know what will happen. I started the stunt the same way, only upside down. This time, when I began to close the circle, it added a yellow ring, not an orange. Yellow, Soren said over the rushing wind. Last time it was orange. I knew in my mind that that could not have been a good sign, but I decided to keep going. As I lifted off the ceiling and righted myself, a blue ring formed inside the yellow ring. What's happening? Yelled Spitfire over the rushing wind. I don't know, Soren yelled back. I sure hope Fireflash knows what he's doing. I knew exactly what I was doing, but I had no idea whatsoever what was causing the messed up colors. As I began to modify the move, I raised my hoofs to the ceiling and started grinding away at the rock with my upside-down Spinferno. After about a minute, I had drilled a 5-inch deep hole into the ceiling. I was starting to feel extremely tired, so I tried to slow down, but I couldn't stop. I tried harder to decelerate, but only accelerated faster. At this speed, I could easily lose control. I immediately called out, "Help me! I can't stop! Help! Soren, we've got to get Fireflash down from there." Well, I know that, but how? Help me! I cried out. If I can't stop, then my Spinferno might turn into an uncontrollable blazing fireball. I could die in this thing! Alright, Fireflash, we're coming! Spitfire and Soren flew up to help me down, but it was too late. I lost control of my Spinferno, which morphed into a spinning ball of fire, with me tumbling around helplessly inside. No! Fireflash! Spitfire screamed. Spitfire tried to fly into the fireball to help me, but Soren pulled her back. I'm sorry, Spitfire, but this is one thing we can't do. Soren sighed and lowered his head. Fireflash is going to have to make it out on his own. I screeched in terror as the fireball began to shrink, and I curled up to try and avoid its flaming balls. It continued to shrink, and I waited for it to be all over. I had no idea what would happen when it hit me, but I expected to catch on fire and be incinerated instantly. When it finally brushed my tail, I prepared myself as much as possible for the worst. It couldn't get any worse than catching on fire and burning to death, right? Wrong. The fireball exploded on contact, sending me screaming and flailing into the wall of the cave, where I fell onto the floor motionless and in an awkward position. When I finally woke up, water was dripping on my face, and I was in agony. I nearly passed out again, but I gritted my teeth and screeched loudly instead. Oh good, you're awake. Spitfire turned away from Soren and trotted over to me. You broke your left wing and both your right legs, and your back left hoof is sticking out at a weird angle, which is not good. Soren unsteadily got up and walked over to me on 3 legs and looked me over. That explosion tore a large chunk of stone out of the ceiling. It also knocked me into the wall, and I sprained my front right hoof and left wing, so I can't run or fly. But you can't even stand up. Spitfire is the only one not incapacitated right now. I moaned in agony. I touched my front left hoof, the only uninjured one, to the left side of my face and winced. A lightning bolt-shaped gash ran behind my ear into the corner of my eye, and down the side of my face. I gasped as the searing pain shot through the gash. "It feels like a lightning bolt down the side of my face," I commented. "It looks like a lightning bolt down the side of your face," Soren said. He walked back over to the other side of the cave and sat back down. "You need to rest, Fireflash." "So do you, Soren," she snapped as he started to get up again. "That wing and hoof need to heal." "Alright, Spitfire," Soren sighed. "I just wish that there was more that I could do to help in my current state." "The way that you can help most is by resting. Fireflash needs us now. He may be faster than us, and stronger, but you need to rest so that you can help him." Okay, I get it. I'll rest up, and I'll see how Repony's doing later." Spitfire turned back to me, eyes soft and caring. "Don't worry, Fireflash. Everything will—" I never heard the rest because at that point I had fallen asleep. When I woke up, Soren was on his hooves again. Well, 3 of them. I was surprised to see that his hoof and wing were bandaged with vines and leaves. I moaned in pain. "Oh, my wing. My legs." "Don't worry," Spitfire said. "I bandaged you up too." "Where did you get all these plants?" I asked. "That explosion knocked a lot of the roof out, remember? I can reach through that hole now. There was plenty, so we're probably in a forest somewhere. There's also a strawberry bush nearby, so we have some food as well." "You want one?" "Yes, I'm starving." "That's what I thought." Spitfire smiled and gave me a bunch of strawberries. As I ate, I began to feel a bit better, but just as in pain as before. "Thanks, Spitfire." "Youch!" I yelped in pain as Spitfire put her hoof on my back. "Oh dear. Are you alright? Did I hurt you?" "No, I'm just sore, that's all. You saw how hard I hit that wall, didn't you?" Spitfire laid next to me for a while and eventually put her hoof around me. It made me wonder, do I love Spitfire? I decided to think about that later, as Spitfire was starting to rub my mane. "That feels nice," I said happily, closing my eyes. "Don't worry, Fireflash. Everything will be fine. I'll be here to protect you until you get better." "Thanks, Spitfire. I know that I can count on you and Soren." I opened my eyes and caught a glance of Soren glaring at me from across the cave. Oh no. That can't be good. Does he have a crush on Spitfire? I really hope not. I don't want any rifts forming between any pony. Not now. After a long week of rest and recuperation, my back left hoof was healed, and Soren's wing and hoof were both fully healed. I still have the vine braces on my 2 right legs and left wing, though. I can tell that this was going to be a long road to recovery. It's been 3 weeks that we've been down in this cave, and tempers were beginning to run short. There was no doubt in my mind that we were doomed to get into an argument from the very beginning. It all started with another mentioning of that same question that's been pestering every pony. "So once my wing and my back right leg have healed, how are we going to get out of here?" I asked for the millionth time. This time, Soren finally lost his patience. Instead of replying with the usual, "We'll finish digging our way out of here eventually," he let me have it. An extremely irritated Soren stared straight at me with narrowed eyes and a snarl in his voice. "Well, if your Spinferno hadn't blown you across the cave and rendered you useless, we would have finished digging out by now." "Careful, Soren," Spitfire warned. "We don't want to fight, not now. And besides, it was my idea to dig us out. Your idea was trying to fit through this hole. That would have never worked." "Watch it, both of you." I looked from one to the other. Soren, glaring from me to Spitfire, murder in his eyes. Spitfire was glancing nervously between me and Soren, hoping things would settle. When our eyes met, I could clearly see her silently pleading with me not to escalate the spontaneous argument. I sighed inwardly and looked back to Soren. Fighting would get us nowhere, and you're right, my Spinferno was a good idea, but it screwed up, and I'm sorry. I glanced quickly to Spitfire, who clearly was glad at my clearing the air, and shot me a look full of meaning. Unfortunately, Soren noticed, and I figured that he must have completely misinterpreted. I reached out my hoof. "Truce?" I offered Soren my right hoof, completely unprepared for his reaction. Instead of accepting my offer of peace, he went into a rage. "Your Spinferno screwed up? I'll say it's screwed up. You blew a chunk out of the roof, broke my wing and hoof, and made it impossible for yourself to do any sort of work. You... Stop!" Spitfire squealed. I had backed up against a wall where I lay cringing in fear, hooves over my head, Soren glaring at me as much hate and contempt as he could have possibly contained for 3 weeks. He turned around, and I lifted my hoof slightly over my head and glanced up. Spitfire was clearly trying to keep this from escalating any further, potentially saving me from a 5th broken limb. Our flaming tempers are only going to cause this inferno to spin right out of control. No pun intended. Soren rolled his eyes and returned his gaze to me, a murderous fire blazing in his eyes. I returned my hooves to my eyes, whimpering in fear. I knew that one wrong move, one misspoken word, even one misinterpreted glance could turn this fight into a full-scale riot. I knew that Soren could hurt me severely if things got any more out of hoof. So I chose my words extremely carefully, slowly rising to 3 hooves and staring nervously back at Soren. We'll have to agree to disagree, I decided. I use pure force, like supersonic speeds in my Spinferno, and when things backfire, I take most of the damage from sheer reflective power. Soren, you use more passive force, like when you tried to force yourself through the hole in the ceiling. It won't always work, but it often has very few negative effects on a failed attempt. Spitfire, you are purely passive, soft-hearted and gentle, and Soren and I could both definitely stand to learn from your patience and kindness. If we had listened to you in the first place, we wouldn't be in this mess. I took a deep breath and lowered my head, and waited for whatever Soren's response would be. The dark fire slowly faded in Soren's eyes, and he sighed. I guess so. I raised my head and looked at him, genuinely surprised. We should have tried it the slower, safer way instead of trying to drill out with a risky move like that. It was me who told you to try the Spinferno. We both turned to Spitfire. We're sorry. Don't be. She put her hoof up, and we stared at her. I was also eager for you to try your Spinferno, Fireflash. She gave me another meaningful look, and this time, thankfully, Soren didn't notice. I grunted and gritted my teeth as a bolt of pain shot up the lightning bolt on my face, bringing me back down to the ground. I touched it gingerly, knowing fully that it would scar over. These headaches are excruciating. Jagged bolts of pain down the left side of my face, I complained, and they won't go away. Spitfire and Soren trotted over, worried looks on their faces. Are you alright? Soren asked, his sudden raging outburst over, to be replaced with the Soren I knew and loved, caring and gentle for the most part. It'll heal eventually, I'm sure. Will you two focus? We've almost finished digging out of here. Fireflash is nearly healed, and we need to escape before the ponies that put us down here accomplish whatever it is their goal is. I rose once again from the floor and walked over, a determined look on my face. Spitfire looked at me. Fireflash, lay back down. You still need to rest. Don't walk around or you could hurt yourself. No! I stared from Soren to Spitfire. My intentions were clear, the determination look on my face. I've lain there with you two taking care of me for 3 weeks now. It's my turn to do some hard work. I may only have 3 hooves to walk on now, but at least my wings are healed and I can fly. What is my task? I looked from one to the other, silently daring them to make me lie back down. Quiet, Soren hissed unexpectedly. I hear some pony. We sat in silence and heard hoofsteps overhead. We heard an unrecognizable voice. Do you think that they're still alive? The search has nearly been given up. We sat in silence, but no pony answered. We heard a grinding noise at the entrance, and an angry voice, a different one. They're not here! They must have found the escape tunnel. Oh no, Soren moaned. There's no way we can take them. My wings are healed, remember? I can perform a 3rd Spinferno. Hopefully it'll scare them off without a fight. I can only display my force through flying, so a Spinferno is perfect. I'm willing to give it a go as a last-ditch effort, because you two are my friends and I care about you. Really? Soren was astounded. You would risk your life to try and pull off a Spinferno with a broken leg to save me and Spitfire? Yes. In the few seconds of silence that followed, we heard rapid hoofsteps echoing down the tunnel. Here goes nothing. I began running on 3 hooves in the now familiar circle with 1 broken leg. It took longer for the red ring to form, and even longer for the orange ring. I took off, now able to go to the full speed required to pull off the Spinferno, and the yellow ring formed inside the orange one. My left wing, the one that I had injured, began twitching as the flames began to build up. I gritted my teeth against the pain, spun my Spinferno to a corner near the exit tunnel, and waited. 2 Pegasi rushed in, saw the glowing Spinferno, turned tail, and tore back down the tunnel, Soren and Spitfire in hot pursuit. I followed rapidly down the tunnel, flames blowing around me. As I reached the main cave, I became too tired to fly, so I decided to land, having forgotten that landing with 3 hoofs would be extremely difficult. I tripped and skidded face first into the cave wall, almost knocking over Spitfire. "My bad," I apologized. "Are you alright?" Soren called. "I'm okay. Did we get them?" "No, but I caught a glimpse of them before the exit was resealed," Spitfire gasped for breath. "They were both darkish gray with blue manes. A unicorn must have been waiting outside." "Not Wonderbolts?" Soren confirmed. Definitely not Wonderbolts, I thought to myself. But how in Equestria did they find me again? "Twins, probably," Spitfire decided. "That will narrow our search significantly. Now let's dig out of here." I called to Soren and Spitfire, but they had already dashed back down the tunnel. I stood up and began pacing. They can't have found me. It's been 7 long years. How could they have possibly have found me? I need to get out and warn Rainbow Dash. We're in danger. But I was still trapped, and she had no idea. I suddenly realized that the fact that they had found me was not the only thing bothering me. I lashed my wings in fury, unsure what it could be. Suddenly, I stopped, mouth wide in astonishment, remembering our recent argument when Spitfire had given me those meaningful looks. I remember how she nursed me slowly back to health, a look in her eye the entire time. Could that have been love? I could not believe it. Is Spitfire in love with me? Only one thing is on my mind right now, and I think that Soren and Spitfire are thinking the exact same thing that I am. Since my back leg finally healed a few days ago, all 3 of us have been digging furiously. I can't believe that we've almost made it out of here alive. I was asleep when we made it to the surface. "Fire Flash, get up!" Soren was yelling. "We made it!" I rolled over, sat up, and groggily rubbed my eyes with my hooves, dark patches under them from being so tired. Soren, what's the matter?" I mumbled, still half asleep. I slowly rose to my hooves, eyes barely open, and wobbled back and forth, still half asleep. I was vaguely aware of some pony tapping me on my shoulder repeatedly. "Fireflash, get up," Spitfire said, her voice soft with affection. "We made it." If I wasn't awake before, I was now. I remembered my earlier revelations that Spitfire had subtly been giving me. Looks full of love, and now was no different. I realized that she would not likely act with subtlety much longer. "Alright, Soren, Spitfire. I'll be ready to leave in a minute. Just let me stretch my wings." I turned around and was caught completely off guard as Spitfire kissed me. I immediately broke off and jumped back. "Spitfire? What was that?" My mouth was hanging open in astonishment. I was about to continue, but Spitfire took advantage of my open mouth and kissed me again, putting her hoofs around my neck, not letting me get away. My wings shot straight out sideways. I struggled, but Spitfire refused to let go. I decided that the best thing to do would be just to let her do what she wanted so that we could leave. I closed my eyes and kissed her back. Instead of letting me go, she put more passion into her kiss. She broke off as Soren called out, "Spitfire, Fireflash, where are you?" Spitfire flew up to the cave entrance and called out to Soren while I desperately tried to make my wing boner go away before Soren came back from exploring the area. As Soren and Spitfire entered the cave, Soren saw me hoofing at my wings, trying desperately to make them lay flat. I noticed him watching me, and my face turned bright red, Spitfire giggling madly. Fireflash, what are you doing?" Unable to come up with an excuse. My face became redder, my wings still sticking out at my sides. "Never mind, I don't want to know," Soren sighed. "Whenever that, whatever it is, goes away, and you can fly again, let's get out of here." After a couple of minutes, I was able to fly again, my wings no longer stiff. I took off out the entrance and flew into the sky before diving down and performing a sonic boom, flames shooting out around me. And I used my flame-colored tail to write smoke words in the sky, like Rainbow did after a sonic rain boom. My skywriting read, Rainbow Dash, we're alright. I touched down next to Spitfire and Soren. She knows my style of skywriting, so just wait, she'll be here in 10 seconds flat. We didn't have to wait long. I heard her as I saw her, a rainbow streak blazing through the sky. I'm coming, Fireflash. She tackled me to the ground in a normal hug. I missed you so much, Fireflash. Tell me everything. Don't forget that we still need to get home. It looks like some ponies missed you, Fireflash, Soren chuckled. Yeah, I can't express how happy I am to see all three of you. Every pony thinks that you're gone, but I never gave up looking. I knew that you'd never leave me, Fireflash. Of course not, Rainbow. Let's go home. With that, the four of us took off into the sunset, heading back home. And that was The Lost Wonderbolts. As I said, I'll link the story in the description below. I would like to do this again, so if you've got any story suggestions that you would like me to read, I would be most happy to oblige. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.